Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast tech podcast series. This is Lakshit Pan from Azure Developer Community, and today in this initiative we have been driving we have been inviting all the young startup founders, all the managing directors, and all the executives to understand from them what is exactly going in the market in the startup ecosystem. And for today's this episode, we have our industry expert, Mr. Lokesh Nigam sir, co-founder and director of Cognoz. Cognos is a management consulting organization with a focus of improving business, human resources, and people outcomes. Right. So to understand better what Cognos do and to understand better what Lokesh sir has been doing for quite few years, let's start with a quick introduction. Sir, could you please introduce yourself first?
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I just to quickly introduce myself, I've been into consulting industry for the last 20 years in the people and HR consulting space, and we have been working on the at the forefront of technology for quite a while in terms of whether it is about automating HR systems in the organizations by bringing in the right management systems, or by the method of AI by kind of bringing the right tools to the organizations. My own background, I have been and I was in Indian Armed Forces once, and after that, pursued my engineering and an MBA in HR, and been working into organizations like KPMG, PwC, Aisha Consulting, etc. Before starting on my own about 10 years back. Yeah.
It's been very inspiring as you have served in the armed forces. Then okay, that's very pretty inspiring, sir. So starting from that point only, can you share this journey of finding the Cognos research and consulting services, and how has it evolved over the years, and what led to you to found this consulting business, right? Because belonging to the armed forces, and how much years did you spend in the armed forces?
No, hardly any time actually. I had to withdraw from the academy itself and had a injury, so I had to almost rebuild my career. And so I did engineering after that, and took the management degree, and I worked in consulting with Aisha Consulting, KPMG, and PwC, as I was saying, in mostly in the HR domain and industry, or the business and HR domain. Uh, why I founded and started into consulting is quite interesting, because over time I was kind of experiencing that the whole approach to consulting is becoming more project based, program based, and with little focus on identifying and solving problems of the clients in a deep manner, bringing right kind of research. And that's why research is very crucial to us. uh, Bringing the right research oriented tools and systems that can help in solving the problems in a simpler manner. That's how we started, and I think we have been true to our original mission throughout these last 10 years, in establishing a very research oriented firm which finds new and innovative solutions on one hand, and on the other hand trying to focus on knowledge and research and coming to the solutions from that perspective. So that's been the nuance that I've been working with, our teams have been working with for the last so many years now.
So for so many years in the from your management and consulting experiences, what changes you observe in this industry, right? This drastic changes that totally disrupted. This might be not a right word to use, but that disrupted the industry, that led to a change in the employee experience from organization perspective.
I think so. In my experience, I've seen that. First of all, more while things keep changing, there are still things that remain the same. So,
Right.
uh, while the background and foreground has been changing because of the technology and the speed of technology, and when we look at things from a consulting perspective, one of the biggest shifts is faster turnaround to solutions. So, people are no more interested in standard ways of consulting. Going to understand, doing a lot of diagnostic, and then reaching out to studying again what kind of processes and systems will work best in a given scenario. It's faster and speedier turnaround to solutioning. So
Okay.
you actually start with solutioning first and say that if these are the situations, then this is the situation which is given. What kind of solutions will work best? Second is everything is augmented with technology. So earlier on, you will do work from a process perspective, from a people perspective, but right now, uh, most of the things start with usually the interface of platform and people. That how do we make our organization and resources how should we organize our resources and organization in such a way that it is most optimal, and therefore there is a whole lot of focus on tech-led solutions,
Right.
and now, of course, increasingly it is AI-led solutions. And what is not
Right.
changed is the way what is not changed is the way clients question. So the question still remains the same: that how do we become more effective? How do we become more productive? So while answers are changing, questions somewhere are still the same. That how do we
Yeah,
become better?
I would say some fancy terms are coming in our answers, but the question always remains the same, right? Yeah. So I would like to know what are your thoughts on the role of, from that age of, because this is the age of tech, right? How does Cognos ensures the consulting solution that are agile or maybe adaptable for the rapid change in that are coming from a business process?
So we have always been of the view that the current methods of the working are the most important when it comes to consulting. So it's not in
Right.
isolation, and one of the most important method of solving problems today is technology. And we have all seen that when we were going through the COVID times in the 1.5 years, when almost all work was happening remotely, at least wherever it can. So technology is a big game changer, and particularly when it comes to business processes and people processes, there is a lot of scope of deploying technology at the right place to make lives of people more effective as well as the work more effective. So lives of people better and the work more effective. So if that is the scenario, then we have to adopt to technology. Technology can be adapted in two places. One, it can be adopted in the processes to make processes simpler, faster, better. And a lot of work is happening in that area when it comes to any business process, whether it is supply
Right. The
chain.
automation thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So whether it is supply chain or it is whether it is supply chain or whether it is customer-led processes or whether it is people processes. So how to streamline the flow of processes and automate more and more of those, reduce more and more of those. So two approaches: reduce the process and automate it. So that is one important thing. And second is the knowledge. So how do we augment knowledge of humans through AI by AI in solving a problem faster, better, and more consistently? So, for example, if you look at Converse, that is what it is doing. It is actually a solution which is helping in interviewing candidates, right? So that's what we created. So it's basically trying to say that okay, through the knowledge that system has, or the large language model has, or the AI has, replaces a lot of uh, repetitive work and non-standardized work in the interview and screening process. So that's the second leg. So first leg is on the process. Second leg is on the augmentation of knowledge. Of course, ultimately you need to digitize. So it is available on a digital platform. So when we look at process automation, in business, we actually look at the aspect of how uh, first reduce the process, then automate the process, and then digitize it so that it can be remotely operated. Right, that's a standard method. And second thing is as I said, on the forefront of knowledge, as to how do you apply, how to equip the system with knowledge through AI, which replaces a knowledge based task. And I think that
Right.
is where the major shift is happening today, from a
Right.
technological perspective. And we at Cognos always researched to be at the forefront of this, and kept on revising and reviewing our services to make it available to what is happening now in the industry. There are a lot of other
I
experiments we are doing, of course.
The tech is, you always have to do experiment with that whenever you are playing with tech, right? And your work inspires me a lot because I just read a thoughtful comment the fortnight which was said people are it was about one of the industry leader who is building this AI product. Right now people are thinking, I have AI and how I can build a product with it, but instead they should focus on, you have a problem and which part of it can be
Also,
solved should by AI. Right, so
correct.
how thoughtful it is, I just revising, and I see that in your, again, in your all the words that you have made. So now, taking a little bit more deep and dive into the features of that Cognos provide, what's the role of the, I heard that there is some term called digital HR, right? So how this digital HR role is helping, and how it's helping the organizations that are out there, and are in real the organization are adopting, and what exactly happening, because HR is mostly around the in-person talks and everything, right? So people engagements and thoughtful processes, experiences, and multiple office cultures and whatnot, right? So how this digital HR coming into the play?
Right. So, digitizing HR, for what? So, there are, in an organization, typically in large organizations, you will have processes. So, more and more processes are basically transactional processes between people. So, whether it is, running a performance management system, or running a recruitment system, these are all processes, or a payroll system. So over time, it's not just now, it's for the last 20 years, companies have been digitizing the processes, because there are transactions which are happening, just like a bank. You have learned to transact with a bank digitally almost completely, right? So all the
Right,
transactions
right,
today in large organizations are led by digital systems. Typically,
right.
you have human resource management systems, like, for example, Darwinbox, which is our partner, uh, which helps in digitization of processes. So, and of course, as we move forward, it becomes smarter and smarter. So you have smarter digital systems that will replace transactional processes within HR, whether it's in the area of payroll, or in the area of learning, or in the area of talent management, or in the area of performance management, and so on and so forth. So you
Yeah,
basically digitize those processes. That's digital HR from the point of view of process. Then second thing is experience. So I want my employees to have a good digital experience while making any kind of transactions, right?
okay,
Availability of information. So, for example, Microsoft is right now working on Copilot, and
right,
Copilot in a way transforms the experiences of people from a virtual assistant perspective, whether it is the people are using it for learning or completing their tasks.
right,
So the digitization of knowledge and information. So one was digitization of process. Second is digitization of knowledge and information, so that people can augment that for their skills.
okay,
So I am, let's say, typing a letter. Now I can do it better because I have a co-pilot. So I am
right,
augmenting my skill with the knowledge and information that the system has. So there's a second part of digitization. The third part of digitization is that system does it for me rather than I doing it. And in a way, therefore, my content of work goes up, in terms of value add. So the system replaces me to do work. For example, hiring. What I was talking to about Converse.ai. So initial screening interviewing is done by the AI interviewer rather than the human. So now the human person is available for better conversations with the individuals, right? So you have candidates, you work on candidate experience. So one is process, second is knowledge and skills, and therefore the experience, and third is AI augmenting or digitizing the work itself. And that's how digital HR has been moving up the value chain in that sense as the technology evolves.
So maybe I have interpreted the term that is the digital HR. It's not about replacing the HR, but instead it's about enhancing the experience of HR so that some automation could be done. Correct me if
Absolutely.
I'm wrong.
Ultimately, it's about experience of people.
Right.
So
Right.
through whatever I do, I enhance the experience of people I interface with, uh, which is of course our employees, both potential as well as existing employees, and also enabling conversations. So create communities of practice, and enable conversations in the organization. So all of that is the most important thing. It's not
So
about killing conversations.
yes, so you just have introduced a new term to me that is AI hiring, right? How does this happens, right? Can you just fill me more about this AI hiring and what is the tool that you have made for this?
Yeah. So uh, it's been existing in the market for a while. It's not that AI has not been solving problems in hiring, or technology has not been solving problems in AI. But with the advent of AI, uh, so the initial part of organization where the hiring process starts is, post the sourcing. There are recruiters who are screening the resumes and CVs, right? So in any organization, you'll have recruiters. If they receive, let's say, 100 CVs, they're screening them to say, okay, who are the 10 or 15 best fit. Then they will, call those 15, 20 people. Are you interested in the job? Explaining to them why it will make sense, interviewing them whether they are fit for the organization or not, and then let's say shortlisting another 8, 10, then interviewing them again before presenting 5 candidates to the uh, hiring manager. So that's the usual process. And of course, there are various levels of digitization in this process depending on the size and the volume of hiring of organizations. So AI automates the scenario completely. So for example, Converse automates it. So you're the moment the sourcing channel from the sourcing channel CVs hit your database in the form of either applicant tracking, or from the HRMS, wherever you're operating the hiring process, the potential candidates get a link for screening. They put in some information, and screening happens automatically, giving a fit score to the potential candidates. And then they move to the technical and behavioral interview, which is done by the AI. Some part of the behavioral part is based on the psycholinguistics. The language is analyzed on several parameters to see the job fit. There is a job fit model at the back end, and there is a technical generative system which does the technical interviewing. And end of the day, it gives you a technical domain fit as well as the behavioral fit as a percentage score, that this candidate is 60% fit or 50% fit or 80% fit. Now the entire process is now reduced to those 5 6 people which, or 10 people which are the highest matches to the job fit, and therefore hiring managers can interview them, and recruiters can invest on better engaging these 10 12 candidates, from a candidate experience perspective. And that's how the whole hiring experience becomes better, as well as all the fuzziness in the process is reduced drastically. Yeah.
From some point of view, it maybe if I'm on the right path, it's 100% eliminates the bias that has been present for a couple of years, right?
In
Because
fact, that was the first idea when we started working on it. We said, why can't people give interview in any language?
right.
Why can't people from any diversity background interface and give an interview? you know so the original original use case was making it available to as diverse a set of people as you can,
Yeah.
when a job is there and the organization is willing.
So, and how has been your thoughtful experience when we say the adoption of this AI hiring into the companies? How do you see this? Means, according to my perception, I believe this could be very utility for consulting and for the all the for some science executives for the theoretical part of theoretical where there is descriptive interviews, right? But for technical interviews, is it that efficient? when we have to code or something like this, right? For technical engineering interviews, how do you see, is it really impactful, or what's the difference?
Absolutely. I think this is a very good question that you asked. And Because we have been into this domain for so long, and assessment and testing is something that we have been very carefully, in fact, we did a lot of assessments ourselves. Throughout these, I have done so many assessments in the last 20-25 years. I have found that as we move to online assessments, the quality of assessment dips, right?
Right.
Because people will be using another screen, and ChatGPT is there now, and psychometric, anyway you want to project the best face that you have for the outside world. So both psychometrics and technical interviews cannot be 100% relied upon, right? We
Right.
have experience, right? All of us who would have given interviews that we use augmented screens to kind of. So what is, so that is therefore less, and in the future it will be even less valid in that sense. What changes lesser in a human being over a period of, let's say, 2 to 3 years, is the language that one speaks. The language I'm speaking today, it will more or less remain the same for the next 1 to 2 years, and it's extremely hard for me to look into another screen and read
Right.
when I am doing, or let's say I'm doing this podcast with you. It's extremely difficult for me if I have to read through something and speak with you, right? It has to be my
Right.
natural language. It can't be anything else. So that is why psycholinguistics as a method and speaking as a method of assessment will take on speedily in the future. I mean it's already started, but original original system was anyway interviewing.
Okay.
If you look at 50, 60 years back, you will typically call people and see whether they have the skills or not, right? It's because the volume increased, and therefore we started testing indirectly through computer systems, etc. But now AI can replace that work, so I can again focus on the individual and the interview. So the spoken language is the most natural. And if I analyze that, of course, I have methods of analyzing through psycholinguistics. So I can predict the job fit of the person much better than the testing systems. And you will see that this adoption will increase in the next few years hyperbolically, you know, as more and more products and systems come in.
Definitely. So now I would, as we are reaching to the end of, there are lots of questions I would really had with me, but because the paucity of time, I have to keep this short, right? But I really want to ask these two questions that I have with me right now, like from a leadership development, is always a key focus for everyone, right? What methods or strategy do you employ to groom the leaders, to face all the challenges in the future? Because when we talk about, every business has its own challenges and atrocities, right? So when we talk about the, what methodologies do you prefer to deploy in the organization?
See, I think that's a very good question again. I think so. I think today's leaders cannot sit back and relax that, saying that this is the set of things which works.
Right.
Uh, they should have, of course, they should have their experience helps, and they should have standard methods of working. But there are two very important skills. One is from the point of view of unlearning. So a leader today has to unlearn at a much faster speed than it was required 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. So it's my, whatever I know may become less relevant in less than a year's time. So I have to keep augmenting, unlearning what I know, and learning newer and newer stuff. So adjacent stuff. And second is the ability not to answer but to question, right? Ability to coach, not to review.
Right. Yeah, that's
Leaders have
very.
to get out of that mindset of I know the solution and you implement it. So they should have an ability to question and help people arrive at answers, and ability to coach rather than review,
Yeah.
and get the best out of people and their abilities. Grooming the abilities of people and getting the best out of people. Unless they do this, it is very difficult for leaders to survive. And the third thing is, of course, which is very, very crucial, is conscious leadership. Is that be aware of how you are impacting the world around you. uh, because unless leaders are aware how they are impacting the world around them, they will do a lot of injustice, because these days leaders tend to have more resources than they used to have in the past, and therefore they need to be even more conscious of how they are utilizing those resources.
Right. So that's a very thoughtful word coming from you when you said learn how to coach, not to review. I really believe that's one of the best piece of advice I today got right. That's something very new to me, and thank you for this. Now, as we reach the end of this podcast, I would really like to know for the all the young aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to believe into the startup ecosystem, what piece of advice you will give them so that they can just keep on the pace, keep their head high. Because for Indian ecosystem, it's been for this year or last year, if we will see these 2 years has been really tough, right? In post COVID, the cases, the funds that are coming into the market has pretty reduced. If you will see from a because 30,000 feet, right? So, what piece of advice you will give to all the young aspirants?
I think less about funding and more about solving a real problem.
Ah, okay,
Uh, think low cost in getting to MVP state, or the product viability state, uh, and build on solving the problem rather than understand your customer and their problems truthfully before you try to venture out. Uh, Idea is not important. Solving a real problem is.
right,
Idea is less important than solving a real problem. So be close to the customer in observing what problems they're facing. Sometimes they will not tell you. Most of the times they won't. They will be able to tell you some problems, but they will not be able to tell you what actually they are facing. So your keen observation, and work for solving that problem rather than getting to the funding stage fast. Try to low
right.
cost solve to the MVP state, and I think of your enterprise well from the very beginning. Um, don't try to dilute too much too quickly. Work on the proposition. So work on the purpose and passion side of it more rather than trying to earn money. Yeah.
Yeah, post COVID, we have seen a lots of founders coming into the play, and after AI, there has been the number is now increasing exponentially, right? So yeah, so but anyways, best of luck to everyone those who are trying to build something new idea. Maybe we don't know with this much volume here in India, this much population here in India, what could work, we never know, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so ultimately, so this was a very thoughtful podcast for me, sir. Thank you for joining us for this podcast. It was really nice interacting with you. And to all our listeners, thank you for listening to us for this podcast. I hope this podcast was insightful for you because it was really for me, and I learned a lot of lessons from this podcast today. And keep upskilling yourself. We are coming up with lots of initiatives, and yeah, best of luck for our future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was nice interacting with you.